Welcome to Bear Down Ballers. I'm your host, AJ BRAMLETT, back again with my man, Ryan Wall, super producer. And man, what a stretch of games for us, man. Bounce back like crazy. So let's jump right in.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it was their best basketball on the court of the season, but easily their most impressive stretch of games in 1 week. 3 wins over sweeping both California schools and then beating ASU in Tempe. And all the games were pretty. The ASU game, when this is coming out 2 nights ago, it was pretty close through the first half. Then it got one-sided in the second, but the other two games, let's start with those. The UCLA game, it was kind of tight throughout the whole game, and then Arizona kind of pulled away at the end. What were your thoughts on that game in specific?
I thought we made a lot of adjustments in that game. And I thought we learned, from the mistakes in the first game and took away what they were doing to us on the offensive end, to us on defense in the first game. It did a lot better job on the boards. We were a lot tougher. And you could tell that we just wanted to get that bad taste out of our mouth in that game. And used to give UCLA credit though, because they didn't quit in that game. And we played a lot better defense. We challenged their shots. We played our style of basketball. We got out and ran a little bit, and it was just good to see that we, took that punch in the mouth and came back swinging on the next week. You know what I mean? And we expected that. I think, you and I talked about that we thought that would happen, but to see it happen and to see them pull out that victory and, for guys to just come through in the clutch and make big plays was something that made me extremely happy after, the UCLA game over there. That was just a good bounce back for the team.
Yeah, I thought not obviously the player who didn't score the most, but I thought if we had to give an MVP of that game, I think it was Dalen Terry. I think he just affected the game so many ways. He's came on so great recently down this stretch. He had 10 points, he had 9 rebounds, 7 assists, nearing that triple double. He also made two
Yeah.
3-pointers, which he's been increasing those shots from deep, and his shot looks better every game. And I want to just give him the MVP throughout this 3-game stretch. How do you feel about that? Because I feel like nobody has been scoring 20 or more points throughout this 3-game stretch, but he just affects the game, I feel like, more than anybody on this team. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that. We've talked about this, pretty much all year long, that we were waiting for him to get a little bit more aggressive on offense. Trust his shot, take those shots when they're open, kind of search for them. And he started doing that. He's knocking down threes. He's shooting with confidence. Every time he shoots now, you think it's going in. Like he's not hesitating. He's stepping into his shot and putting it up, and they're going in. And as well as everything else that he does, it's just on full display. And I think everybody got to see that in the UCLA game, especially. He just does so many things from facilitating to getting into passing lanes, getting steals, timely assists, energy, everything. And so, we've talked about this from the beginning. He's like the motor, man. And when he's going, they're at their best. I think him and Zulis, when they're playing really well, we're at our best. And so, Dalen Terry, to see him, really expand and kind of come out of his shell on the offensive end is a great thing for Arizona. I think he's just going to keep going now. I think he's finding his comfort zone, and he does all the little things that we need, and he's just a winning player.
Yeah, and I think it's safe to say Jules Tabellas looks to be back to himself. Tommy Lloyd said after the ASU game that he's not back to 100% yet, but he's getting there. But combined for 51 points in 3 games. Last week he was named Pac-12 Player of the Week. So yeah, if those two players are playing at their best, this team's going to be hard to beat. But yeah, so how big of an impact do you think that, Tabellas being at and hopefully at 100% in the near future is to this team?
I think it's huge because he's the one, he's the barometer. We say this a lot too. Dalen Terry, from an energy standpoint, is the lightning rod, but he's the steadying force. Zoo is the steadying force. When he's in there, he just makes so many timely plays. Like he scores so easy around the basket. He facilitates from that high post. He can dribble and handle the ball, and just his toughness and grit in there really makes us a different team. And when he was hobbled, we just missed that a little bit. We missed that guaranteed bucket in the paint. We missed that, him, just banging around and making a good assist to Koloko or Balu for a shot. You just missed that guy that's kind of the centerpiece of the team. And so, it's good to have him back. You can tell he's not like you said, not quite 100%, but when he's dunking on guys and getting back and having his showing some emotion for him, you know what I mean, and feeling better. I think we're going to just see him, continue to be on the upswing from here, which is a great thing for Arizona.
Yeah, in the USC game, that game, it seems like all these games in the last few week or two, they've all been close to start. Arizona normally comes out with the slower, sloppier start, and then they, make those second half adjustments down the stretch. But in that game against USC on Saturday, Jules Tabellas had a double-double, and Kerr Kriisa easily had his best game in weeks. He was well overdue for a good performance. He had 13 points, 5 rebounds, and he hit 3 3-pointers, which was really good to see, just for him to get some confidence back. But he did have 4 turnovers. And then again at ASU, he had 4 turnovers. What do you think about that? Because, Kerr is, some could say, a wild player. So how do you think that Tommy Lloyd can keep that under control so that the turnover issue doesn't start to become a serious problem?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have turnovers sometimes. It's just the player, the style of player that he is. He takes risks. I mean, he tries to thread passes through. A lot of times they get through a lot, but sometimes they don't. And as long as that isn't happening in crunch time, I think we can deal with it for now. You know what I mean? And so I think his good far outweighs his bads, and so he's playing a lot better, especially in the ASU game the other night. He dropped some dimes, to guys, and it really played well. He made some, tough decisions, I think, at the end of the first half where he had 2 turnovers in a row, I think, right before halftime. And so that was half of what he had in the game. So, I think he's playing a lot better, and, he's still playing with confidence. He's still the guy that brings that swagger to the team, and we need him. And so, I think he's just going to continue to get better. Everyone goes through certain patches where, you have too many turnovers or, can't knock down a shot, but at least he never dips in his confidence. So that's what you want to see. And that rubs off on all the other guys, because if he's still confident, they're not worried about him. I mean, they still trust him. They trust him running the team. And whether he makes shots as a bonus, they still want him to shoot every time he gets open. So, I think that's a good thing for him. And he's starting to come out of that slump and shooting better and making more plays offensively. And, he's really played well on defense too, though. He's been harassing the opponent team's guards and really doing a good job there. That hasn't stopped. So, I think he'll just continue to get better.
Yeah, 2 of Arizona's main issues throughout the season up until this point was 3-point shooting and turnovers. And the 3-point shooting throughout the last 3 games has gotten very good. And it hasn't been perfect, but you can tell it's getting better. They were at least 30% in all 3 of these games. And they shot 40% against USC, only 10 attempts, but that shows that they're starting to, because before it seems like some of them would take wild shots when they're not open. But do you see that they're taking shots that are, only when they're open and in the flow of the offense now?
I think with the last few games we've gotten away. I think in the UCLA game we struggled badly, from the 3-point line. It took some contested shots and we're just really uncomfortable, and they pushed us out of what we wanted to do. But now, I mean, the ball rotation is there. We're getting better side to side movement with the basketball, and guys are shooting the ball well. Let's give a shout out too to Pelle Larsson, who played, I thought, one of his best games at ASU the other night. I mean, strong, tough, going to the basket, tough, rebounding the ball well, playing good defense, had a big block down there in the second half, and then knocked down shots as well. And he's playing really well. And also, Umar Ballo continues to impress, really. Like, he's playing so solid in the game. He and Pelle are doing great. I mean, to have 2 guys like that coming off your bench is a huge, advantage for Arizona. And if they can continue to play that way, I think that's going to be huge for us down the stretch.
Yeah, Pelle Larsson was perfect from the field and the 3-point line, obviously. 5 for 5 from the field, 3 3-pointers, 14 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. He was just he looked incredible. He had a pump fake side step 3, and then he also had a layup where he just blew right by 2 defenders and finished with one hand. Yeah, he is really turning it up a notch in these last few games. And Tommy Lloyd said after the game that he's told Pelle that he just wants him to focus on scoring. Just come in the game, be that spark plug, focus on scoring. You don't got to do fancy assists or anything like that, because if he's scoring like that off the bench, I mean, him and Umar combined for 27 points off the bench, and that's while Tabellis and Matherin, your two best scorers, combined for 37, and then you're adding Terry who had 12 and Koloko with double digits. It's last night or 2 nights ago when this is coming out against ASU, they really put it all together. Do you think that was the best performance of the weekend, or did a different game stand out more to you?
I think this 3 game stretch really told us a lot about the team, to be honest. And I think that that we can, and it showed that we can win in different ways. I mean, I think early in the season, all the highlights and all the 90-point games and it's going over 100 all the time. I think we got spoiled a little bit, and we were playing really well. It was fun to watch, but did we know that they could win in a grinded out game? No. I mean, in the first one that we really had like that, was probably, Illinois, they did a good job of winning in that game. Tennessee, we didn't pull it out in that one. And I think there was a little bit of a question on how we could win. And if they took away our style, could we still win games? In these 3 games, we've shown that we can do that because, we've won different ways. Different guys have stepped up in each of those games. It's not been one guy. It's not been scoring 30 every game, or, it's been different guys. It's been Bala, it's been Omar, it's been Pella, like we talked about. It's been Kyer some games. It's DT in other games. So there's different ways that we can win with this team. And I think we proved that, for sure over these last 3 games by getting back at UCLA. USC played us really well. But last night was just a complete game. ASU came out with a ton, I'm sorry, not last night, but when this comes out 2 nights ago, ASU came out with such energy, coming off a high from beating UCLA the other night, and, with a lot of confidence and going into halftime, being down 4, I think they thought, hey, we're going to make a run at this and we're going to go at these guys. And we just took them out in the second half. You know what I mean? And that was good to see that we focused. They came out of that locker room, all about business, and really just blew them off the court in the second half.
Yeah, it's also great to see this Tommy Lloyd team, battle through adversity throughout the season. They lost on the road to Tennessee in a very tight game. They lost by, over 10 points at UCLA, and they keep bouncing back. And I feel like that's just the story of the season. Whenever they hit a little bump, whenever a player hits a speed bump, they go right by it and they come out better on the other side. And I feel like that's making this team better. They're growing as a group. I mean, it's only their first year as a team, and I think it just already shows the progression, because I feel like past year, past Sean Miller teams, when they would be in these big moments, sometimes they would stumble and they couldn't get past them. But I feel like a great example, I don't know if they showed it on TV against ASU, but early in the first quarter, when Tommy Lloyd called the timeout, I think they were down 16-4. He like grabbed Kerr at the timeout, and he was literally like, he was furious at him. It seemed like he was about to headbutt him. Like I've never seen him this mad. And then after the game, he just said like, yeah, like they have that relationship where they can, like, Kirk can take the coaching and get through it.
That says a lot about, Kirk, that, and it says a lot about his relationship and the relationship that Tommy has with the whole team, because, guys can fracture when things like that happen. If you don't trust your coach, or you don't, believe in the message, like those situations can make teams split. And this team doesn't do that. I mean, they're all got each other's backs, through everything. And it says a lot about Kerr that he's able to take coaching like that and bounce back. That says a lot about him as a player and as a person. So, that bodes well for us. And I think that, every time that we've got socked and punched in the mouth this year, we've come back stronger. And that's a great thing for us to be able to do. And that's going to bode well for us when we get to the tournament, to the Pac-12 tournament, and, for the rest of the season, if we're going to make a deep run into March in the tournament this year.
Yeah. On Tuesday night, when we're recording this, number 1 Auburn lost to Arkansas. So that means that Arizona could be on the move up. They have 2 games this week against Washington State on Thursday, at Washington on Saturday. But if they can sweep the Washington schools on the road, Arizona looks to be nearing the top 3 once again. I know the rankings aren't anything, but it's still great when they're up higher towards the leaderboard. How do you see them playing out? Because, no conference game is going to be taken lightly. How do you think they're going to finish out this season? They have They have 9 conference games left. How do you think they're going to play?
I think that Washington State game is a sneaky one, man. I think that we got to be ready for that game. And Washington State's been playing good basketball this year. That trip is always hard. Historically for Arizona, and when I was there, like that trip for whatever reason is tough. And so, they got to be ready for that. I think they're on a good, coming off obviously a good, great stretch of games. I think we're in a good position right now. But that game at Pullman's going to be tough, man. So they got to be ready for that. And then Washington, I think they'll be able to play well in that game. And I mean, we know that we can beat any team, and it really has taken teams playing their best game against us to knock us off this year. You know what I mean? So I think if we just keep building, guys, the bench keeps playing how they're playing. We get Kerr still, on the upswing with his 3-point shooting and decision making. And, I think we got a chance, obviously, to just, play well and win every game. But conference is always hard. There's always a misstep here or there. But we're in a powerful position right now in the Pac-12, sitting on top of it. And, I think we'll just continue to build and move forward.
Yeah, and it's great to see Arizona to get to keep winning these games, even when they're not perfect wins. They're mucking it up. They're just getting through these games. They have turnover issues still, as we mentioned. Certain guys, like Matherin hasn't been scoring as consistently every night, but they're doing what it takes to get it done, as you mentioned, in different ways. But AJ, anything else to add to this crazy week of games before you get into your great interview with a special guest?
I'd really like to talk about Ben a little bit. I think Ben has been playing really good basketball, you know what I mean, and really smart basketball. And for the type of, scoring that he was doing early in the season and, having those big scoring games, pretty regularly early, like he doesn't force anything, man. I like that part about his game. I was thinking that the other night. It's like he just plays within the flow of the game. Like he's aggressive when he needs to be, but he's a team player. And, I just think he's been playing really, really good basketball. Even on a defensive end, he's been locking in and doing a great job, even when his jumper hasn't been falling in some of those games. And I think that's a great sign, for us as well, that, even if he's not, at his optimum shooting the three or, not knocking down jumpers as much, he still had a huge effect on these games. And so I just wanted to point that out because some guys that, are, top scorers and score a lot of points all the time, and that dips, their game dips. And that hasn't happened for him at all this year. He's been playing really well.
Yeah, and I think he showed that against ASU. He was the most aggressive I saw in a few weeks for him. And I feel like when he's aggressive, he really just takes it up a level, and he can, score with the best of them and compete at a very, very high level. And I want to see that consistently, because I feel like if he can compete at that level every game, he really can be one of the best players in the country, because we see, him every game when he's at his best, what that looks like. So, yeah, I really think he's such a great player and so valuable to this team. But tell us who we got coming on the program next.
And it's going to be fun, man. My brother from the 1997 championship team, we call him B-Nut. Everyone else calls him Bennett Davison. Mr. Bennett Davison will be up next on Bear Down Ballers. Before we move on to the next topic, let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at BetRivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up at BetRivers yet, now's the time, because they are offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is that they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their new Rush Play Instant Approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. With basketball season tipping off, get in on the action by going to BetRivers.com today or by downloading the BetRivers iOS app. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Hey, I'd like to welcome in my guy, my brother, the highest jumping man out of Sebastopol, California, ever to be born. Mr. B-Nut, Bennett Davison.
Air 5.
How's it going, my man?
What's good? What's good, brother? How you been?
Man? Yeah, I'm doing great, man. Appreciate you hopping on with us today at Bear Down Ballers, man. We're just gonna jump right in, man. We got a lot of history together. Just kind of want to go back to the beginning and ask you some of the stuff that I always wanted to ask you, but never got the chance to or never thought about it.
Hit me with it. You know what I mean? Yep, hit me with it.
So talk to me about. I mean, coming out of high school, you weren't super recruited coming out of high school, right? And you ended up going to West Valley Community College. Like talk about a little bit about your high school career and then what it was like at West Valley, man.
I was if you go an hour north of San Francisco, we lived in a little town that's 6,000 people back in the 60s, and it's still 6,000 people in 2022. It's a lot of we had 6 acres, and my dad was just like, hey, we're gonna go feed the cows, we're gonna go raise some rabbits, we're gonna go slaughter the pigs. And it was kind of like a situation where, dad comes back in your life and he's like, hey, I'm gonna teach you how to be a man. So for me, his birthday is tomorrow, Al Davison. He's saying, got to find love on the cable car in front of, he embarrassed the shit out of me. I'm not gonna lie to you. But hey, that's what dads are for. And so no joke, I used to go to all the Santa Clara, Cal, Stanford, University of San Francisco, like summer camps, and there was just nobody there. We didn't know the process. It's like, hey, what's this new thing, recruiting? Hey, my son's tall and he can dunk the ball and as a sophomore. So for me, it was dad's like, hey, we're going to get you out of this little small town area and we're going to go outside and we're just going to go talk to different colleges. And he says, hey, security, where's the gym? Where's your head basketball coach? He's like, he's over there. Do you have an appointment? He's like, no, we're good. We'll just park right here and we'll walk in. And he's like, hey, here's my son. He can play. Here's a tape. And they said, hey, he's good, but go to a junior college, check it out, and we'll recruit him. And so they said, what's a junior college and how does it work? And, there's a lot of parents out there that I've heard about it, but they don't know the nuts and bolts of scholarships and money and the educational portion of it. It's like, hey, my son can play. What does this all entail? And so it's a as you already know, you're well recruited yourself. It's probably easier for you since you're so tall, dark, and handsome. But for me, I was a small town. It's like, hey, where's the black guy? Gets lost in town. He's like, hey, go talk to Al because he's the only black guy in town. That's how small it was. And so went to junior college and then played 2 years there and had a great, amazing coach, Bob Burton, and came to Arizona as a junior. And you were a sophomore with JT and Gene and Bibby and everyone else.
So what were your thoughts when you first got to Arizona? Like, what did you think when you first got on?
I was like, y'all are really good. Y'all are really good. I was like, you mean to tell me I got to guard Joseph Blair, Ben Davis, Donnell, AJ, and all the others like, Coach, you think I can play with these guys? No joke. I actually didn't even play because I saw him. I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to shoot around a little bit. I was only 2 years into really having good, solid coaches that were like, no, this is how you do it, and you're not doing it hard enough.
Right.
And then I saw you guys. I was like, they already know how to do it. And I was like, all right, maybe I need a couple more months to train myself a little bit better. So no joke. You guys were intimidating.
And Coach Olson saw it in you though, like he did in all of us though. You know what I mean? Like he saw what your future was and what you could be as a player. And I think, for all of us, besides, Bib probably, you know what I mean? Besides Mike, all of us were kind of that way. You know what I mean? Like we all had talent. We all had our, certain game that we had coming into Arizona, but he saw what we were going to be, a year after that. Or
absolutely. That's like, the best phrase is I'd rather coach a bunch of good kids that are athletic instead of a bunch of athletic knuckleheads.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you were a little bit of a knucklehead, man. Let's not.
I had a learning disability.
Fact.
I needed extra times on the test. I couldn't focus very well. But you throw a ball out there, I was like, I'm a dog dialed in, just like you. I know, to go back to the little story, you're probably you grew faster. You were more athletic. You could pick up like, hey, how do I throw it? How do I dunk like this? Like, all right, show me and I'll do it. You pick it up. You're just kids learn in different ways. And my mom was like, hey, I don't have the energy. Go chase that ball and then I'll see you after the game and you'll be tired. So.
So obviously we all know, about our 97 championship run. I've had Bib on, JT, Gene, all those guys. I want to get everybody's perspective because everyone has a little bit different perspective and some things are similar, you know what I mean? So what was your thoughts on that year in general and then, the tournament and how everything went?
It was a transition for me. And it's just like the best thing is, are you going to go to the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq and try to shine? Or are you just going to play your role? I think Miles had already had established himself as a leader. I think JT had come in. You would your first year to get some playing time because you're playing behind so many big names like Joseph Blair and Ben Davison, Corey Williams, and Reggie Gary, and I mean just amazing names. You're like, where do I fit into this puzzle when you have Coach Olson has a system, and how do you plug yourself in? So you're constantly questioning yourself on, am I good enough? Am I going to start? I mean, there's a lot of just like coming into Coach Johnson's office and he's breaking down plays. You're like, God damn, I look like that out there. You're out there killers. Like, man, I need to get in the weight room. And then, you get exposed out there. It's all about like, hey, here's you, here's your court, here's your individual play, here's your team play. And then how do we mend that all together into a multi-million-dollar team in Division I, top 5, great Pac-12, Arizona. We're doing amazing. Keep going. Keep grinding.
That's right. That's right. So you had I'm going to ask you this because I've never asked you this before. And, obviously you had a million dunks. Like you were our guy. You know what I mean? You were the high flyer. You jumped way higher.
1-2 by yourself, sir.
I ever could, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, but no, we were way above what I could do, man. Like, do you remember I know what my favorite dunk of yours is, but what is your favorite dunk from college?
The Michigan one on trailer. It's funny because I had the recording and it's such bad quality that as it's happening, it's staticky. So it's like the best dunk that never existed.
It's not anywhere. Maybe we have to have that tape.
I don't know. If somebody can find it, I would love to just send it to your podcast and send it to us.
Yeah,
let us know.
I think we need to check with Roz, man. I bet you Roz has that tape somewhere. Better quality.
Yeah, we were playing in Ann Arbor. It was Ann Arbor, right?
Yeah.
Freezing cold. The bus is sliding across the street and the road, and
I just remember jumping for the rebound, and you just dunked on me and the entire team from Michigan, man.
Hey, it was my only 2 points for the game, but hey,
I was 1 for 9 for I was 1 for 9 for the free throw line that game. That's what I remember.
I don't know how we won. It's funny because it's kind of like an inside thing. Whenever we come back for that Lute Olson fantasy camp, and I heard a few good things about the old Lute Olson fantasy camp. I'm not going to say anything, but hey, everybody's going to be watching this tape. But in doing so, I forgot my whole topic I was talking about. Something about, I don't know. Anyways, next question.
We'll come back to that, man. So
yeah.
The 97 championship run was what it was. And, it was amazing. I always say that, the chemistry and everything that we had that year was just the best team that I've ever been on, still to this day. You know what I'm saying? And 98 team, we were better. Like we were a machine that year. You know what I mean? In terms of basketball, knowledge, skills. Why do you think we didn't win that year?
To remind you exactly what I was thinking about is when we go back to the Lute Olson thing, we always had dinner with Ted. Steve and Reggie and Ben and Joey JB, and it was like, guys, we weren't the best team in 97. Like, if you look at our roster, we weren't the best. And you always get Reggie's like, yeah, we know. And you had Steve Curry and Sean Elliott and all these amazing names. And 98, I felt like we were much better when we I just told the parent, we said, we were one lucky shot away from being undefeated in the Pac-10. Last game, the last second shot, they tied it. And then they made another three-pointer in the same spot, Spanish, and it went off the backboard and they won by 1 or 2 points. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
That game still bothers me. That game still bothers me, man. We should have been.
And it hit the backboard in the rim, and it just trickled in. We're like, "Jebam ti mater pičku majku."
Then we went on to beat UCLA though the next game though.
Yes, we did. But we get run by Utah, so it happens.
Mike D was killing that game. Mike D had 30 in that one. Yeah.
Hey, I had to step up. But anyways, hey, I know we were over in Europe at the same time, enjoying our travels and our journeys.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about is, after U of A, you snipped the NBA a little bit and then went overseas and played for how many years? 10, 11 years?
About 12 and a half.
Okay.
98, went to Turkey, Australia, Melbourne, Australia, Istanbul, and then did 5 years in the NBA Summer League. You know, you're chasing that dream. And I think you can kind of add to this also is you always have these players and you have these dreams. They have these combines and you have the NBA and you have the Phoenix and the Utah and the Boston and all these different exposure camps in Las Vegas. And you have this dream of being, I want to be in Hollywood. I want to be in the NBA. But you can make have an amazing journey going over to Europe, educating yourself, experiencing yourself, finding a country, learning a different country on a culture. Everyone goes about doing the same things. What was your experience in Europe when you were playing over there?
It really just opened up my mind and really, my life to just living in another country, being uncomfortable. You know what I mean? When you first get there, you have no idea what's going on. Like not being away from your family, it really makes you like mature and grow up, I think. And so like, I wouldn't change it. I enjoyed, my short time in the NBA, and people ask me like, do you wish you would have been in the NBA longer or whatever? And at times, I wonder what it would have been like if I would have kept chasing it for a couple of years and maybe would have caught on with the team and stayed. But my experience in Europe was amazing, man. Like it really molded who I am today and molded how I deal with people and how I interact. And it was just a wonderful experience, man. Did you experience some of the same stuff?
Yeah, for me, it was the same way. It was like you're going to Istanbul, Turkey, where it's Muslim, and then you're going to Australia, where it's summertime, and like you get 2 years of straight summer. And then you come back to Tucson, and then you're doing like NBA summer leagues, and then you go to Slovenia, where it's like -30, and you're playing the Baltic, and you're playing in Russia, and you got to go to like Russia, and then you're playing on a road trip, and then you're flying your family in, and your wife and kids are living there with you, and it's like you go to the store, and you're going, is that pig? Is that yeehaw? Is it horse? Is that like it's like you don't speak their language. You're like, what is this meat we want to buy here? We don't know what it is.
I ordered a lot of bad mystery meat, man. For a couple of years.
Yeah, you're taking hair out of it. What was that? So, I mean, things like that. And it's for me, I've actually like talked with you and other players. Like even probably the weirdest story is a player's going over there. He's been there for 4 days. He's in Mongolia. It's -40 degrees. He's up in the mountains of Mongolia, where like Sherpas are and llamas, and he goes to practice, and he has to walk 1.5 miles through -30 degrees weather. The gym is frozen. He comes back, and there's a horse leg on the countertop. And he's like, what's that? And he's like, this is your food for the next week. He's like, man, what is that? Is it a llama? Is it a horse? And so he started eating rice and vegetables. He's like, I got to eat it. So after 4 days, he finally broke down and had to eat some horse meat from the Mongolian, stuff like that. So there's some experiences you got to eat. That's obviously the worst of them. So
that's a good one, bro. I never had to do that. Thank God I didn't have to do that. But
yeah.
You're talking about overseas. Okay, you mentioned Australia. And I'm going to ask you, because I asked Biv and I asked Gene what their favorite memory of our trip to Australia was. And they had different answers. Biv said he ate French fries for the whole time, which he never eaten.
Yeah.
Gene said it was when we were throwing the chicken bones at his head in the Great Barrier Reef, and all the big fish were coming up. So what was your recollection of that trip?
I'm a social studies teacher now, and so I taught my kids about the Spanish conquering of the Gulf of Mexico and the pirates. And the pirates were led by one leader, and it was a very democratic thing. And we were in Australia. We had to be there for 3.5 weeks. And we were there for about 10 days. We had just won a championship. We missed our girlfriends. We were missing America. And we thought we were adults. We came in and was like, yeah, we're going to tell coach we're going to go home. We need some flights. We're going to get out of here. This is some bullshit. Man, we spent about 3.5 hours organizing what we were going to say. Like, we were educated kids. He's like, Coach, we'd like to talk to you. He's like, he walks in, rubbing his ring. He's like, what can I do for you, gentlemen? And I guess he had already gotten wind of it. And like, Miles is like, Coach, I feel that we need to, we're missing home and people don't want to be here anymore. We're not liking it very much. And he's like, well, that's off the table. He's like, all right, Coach, see you in the morning. See you in practice.
Yeah, the first thing he said was, whatever you guys want, we're not going home. And then it it was crickets. Nobody said anything. Like, we had all this bravado going in the room, like, we're not taking no for an answer, man. We're going home tomorrow.
Yeah.
Coach shut it down right away.
That's Coach O. He's just like, I've been through it. He's like, me and the wife, me and Bobby, we're gonna go out wine tasting tomorrow. we already have plans. You guys enjoy it. So good times.
Yeah, now looking back at it, I wish we would have enjoyed it a little bit more, but I think we did the rest of the trip.
I think we were too cool for our own shit. Like, we thought our shit didn't stink after winning the championship. We're like, man, we're kind of rock stars right now. And it was fast and fleeting, but it was hey, you gotta enjoy it when it's there. I mean,
it was fun, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm famous in Slovenia, in Novo Mesto, and Tucson. That's it. That's the only two places people know me.
So let's go back. Let's go back to Slovenia, because I was going to ask you about this. I remember you told me they called you, what was it, Air Dolinska or something like this.
Air Dolinska, it was their Slovenian Airlines.
Okay, so that's what they called it. That was your nickname, because you were dunking all over those dudes all overseas.
Oh, it was, I had just got done. I was committed to living in Europe. I was doing a lot of fitness training at Rikus Fitness Center. It's Stanford, so I had like Stanford running track coaches. Yeah. We had plyo bands. They were doing experimental stuff. They were doing video recording, so they were marketing stuff. And me and this other guy, just like yourself, a professional college athlete, just out of those first 2 years, and it just turned out to be one of the best situations for me in living over in Europe, and just committing to living in Europe and being there by myself and being like, you know what? I've always had my mom and dad influence or just guide me in the right direction. I've always had a coach guide me in the right direction. Now I'm an adult and I'm making my own money. And it's like, as a professional athlete, you have this trajectory where it's you go from college where you're kind of nurtured and nested, and then you're like, boom, you're up here. How do you manage that as it tapers off? Whereas if you're a lawyer or a doctor, or you get a degree in engineering, it's a gradual process of building up. And so you're later in your years, it's a different trajectory. The whole projection of a professional athlete's the opposite of anything that's normal for pretty much anybody in Hollywood or fame or success like that. So.
Yeah, that's true. And so over there, I think you played with the father of one of the current NBA superstars. Who was that?
That was Sasa Doncic. Sasa Doncic happens to be Luka Doncic's father. Luka was about 3, 4, 5 years old in the 2 years that I played there. I think it was 2001, 2002 season. And ended up, he was just a young little kid that, as you're in Europe, you always bring your wife or girlfriend, your kids with you on the floor. It's a very nurturing, like, we would have, in living in Italy or Slovenia, we'd have neighbors like, hey, can we hang out with your daughter and feed her lunch and just feed her olives and spaghetti and grapes and just all the different flavors of the world. And we're coming home from practice, we're exhausted, and we just want to nap and relax. And it's just a sweet little, Europe is a very nurturing culture. Yeah. And so like Slovenia was freezing cold. I loved it. But Air Dolinska was the nickname that they gave me. It's just like when you were in Spain, you have these places that are just culturally you're familiar with because you lived there for a year.
Yeah, it was. I mean, in my time in Spain, I look back. I mean, that was just great, man. I had so much fun over there. Good people, good community, good food.
Yeah.
It was just an awesome time. So, all right, I got a couple more for you. Then I'm gonna let you get out of here, brothers. But this one is very important. Okay. Very important. Mike Baby asked me to ask you this too. So, what was going through your mind when we were on the road trip in the Oregon schools, and you were and the baggage claim was coming out with our bags? What made you jump on that baggage claim, and what happened to that story? What happened with that?
It was something that was, when you have a kid that has endless amounts of energy, and we were just sitting on a delayed flight. I mean, how small was that airport? That thing was itty bitty. It was like a barn, a carousel, and like a check-in area. It was like a shitty Airbnb down in Albuquerque. No offense, but in doing so, it's like, hey, let's do something again. Coach Johnson, he kind of whispers in my ear. He's like, hey, you want to do something cool? And I was like, okay, let's do it. And then he's putting it out to Donnell, and Donnell's like, oh, no, I'm not doing it. And then Quinn, Quinn's like, no, I just got out of a mission. I can't do that. And Jay Stu was like, you come to church with me on Sunday? And I was like, oh, Bennett, I guess he'll do this. Let's liven this thing up a little bit. And I just sat there on the little carousel and I just floated. And then you guys set me up. Coach Jay set me up. I was going to make like $21. I was like, $21, let's go. And I come out and Coach Jay says, hey, security, there's a kid that's going to come out of here. And he said, scare the shit out of him. I was like, oh, at the time I didn't know it was obviously as a wiser individual, you know, I know what's going on, but y'all were messing with me. But hey, it was a good one. And then they threatened to take me back to security. And I was like, in this little shed, you guys have a security office? So,
one of the greatest times and experiences of my life, dude. I'll never remember.
No, it's good stuff.
I just never forget you disappearing through the back of the baggage claim and then coming out the other side, man.
And I remember Rod's like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Get back here. And you got Josh was like, oh.
Hey, man, good times, brother.
Absolutely.
So now let's talk about a little bit about what you're doing now, man. I know you're still involved in basketball. You're still involved in the community, training kids in the Dallas area. Like, talk to me about what you're doing there now and you know what you got coming up.
Yeah, for me, life is always about transitions. You know, you're a professional, you're from college, then you're professional, and then you've transitioned out of that, and you're like, hey, what do I do? And for the last since 2015, I've been in Dallas, and then I was in Sacramento. Before that, I was doing about 5 years of solar, residential, commercial solar, and now I'm in education and youth basketball development. So it's just simple little stuff. I mean, you're paying the bills. You're in Dallas. I have 3 beautiful daughters, Maya, Kiara, Talia. They're 14, 16, and 19. And, you know, life is about transition. Dallas is an awesome city to sit. Dallas has treated me well. Play a little bit of sand volleyball. It's easier on the body than actually basketball. I don't play basketball anymore. It's just low key. You know, eating at home and relaxing, staying warm. We just had a snowstorm for about 2 days and Dallas shut down. So we got 2 days off from teaching and stuff. So education is my industry.
All right. Well, Dave, keep doing what you're doing, man. You know, love you a lot, man. Dalen and Drew said you got to take them to Twin Peaks again when we come back to visit.
Let's go. Yeah, how are the boys doing? I see
they're doing good, man.
Hey, we got more jokes for them. We got more jokes.
That's right. They love Uncle Bennett, man. So,
all righty.
Hey, appreciate your time. Oh, before we go, let me ask you about this. You said you've been watching the current team a couple times this year, right? You've been following.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of the USC. So I'm in the Central, so I always get like Texas Tech and University of Texas, Oklahoma, and you get all the East Coast things, Alabama and that South. So we're kind of in the South. Texas, Dallas is really in the South portion of America. So I don't get a lot of West Coast, Pac-10, Arizona. And if I do, it's probably going to be like Colorado and Arizona or New Mexico kind of sports, just because that's the region that we're in. But the other night I was just I was talking to Ryan and talking about sending them, hey, I'm here watching the game, those types of things. So it's just sitting at the bar. We're just kind of playing some sand volleyball, watching the game, but you always poking your head in. It's like, and plus we were just down there in August. Those are some big boys. They are some talented, athletic, like they go get after. I would be like, man, I would hate to guard. It's like guarding a team with Tony Gonzalez's. Who the hell wants to do that, dude? That's a workout.
Well, they're doing great, man. So anytime you get to catch them, they got a good chance to make a run, strong run this year, man. They've been
I mean, this is exactly why we're chatting right now. Let me know. We'll make the long drive through the desert of West Texas and Albuquerque.
Sounds good, my brother. I appreciate it.
All right. Love you.
Love to have you back on another time.
Anytime.
Thanks for jumping off there now, brother. Have a good one.
Indeed.
All right.